UFC 300 Pereira versus Hill full card predictions. Starting at the bottom of the card, making my way to the top as always. This is going to be a very late video when it gets posted, probably only a few hours before the event. Reason being, I made the video last night. It was a long video, and when I went to upload it, I watched it back and I saw that the audio and video didn't sync. They didn't sync together, so I couldn't figure out how to change that, so I had to redo the entire thing. Regardless, let's just jump right into it. Hopefully, it goes more smooth this time. Davison, Figueiredo, and Cody Garbrandt to start off the night. Look, I don't think this fight's going to be what everyone thinks it's going to be. Just Figueiredo steamrolling him. I just don't. It's not impossible that Figueiredo gets by him, but I'm actually going to go with Cody Garbrandt here. I think Garbrandt is very live in this fight, more so than his plus 240 odds indicate. The reason being, I think Garbrandt, I feel like he's improved as far as he's always had the skill, Cody, but the problem is he would get too emotional in fights, and he'd try to look to knock guys out instead of setting things up correctly the right way. And I think he's matured a lot in the octagon and even outside of it. I think he's gotten older, he's gotten smarter. He knows against Figueiredo, if he gets in a swinging contest, he probably will lose because his durability isn't as good as Figueiredo's historically, at least. The thing that I see though with Figueiredo is he's 36 years old, and this is only his second fight at bantamweight. He's never fought someone that hits like Cody, and I understand that Cody has been knocked out on multiple occasions, so it makes sense why people would pick Figueiredo, but I don't see him having a lot of wrestling and grappling success. Maybe he can take Cody down. I don't see him controlling him. I think Cody is going to be pretty aware of that threat from Figueiredo. And I think on the feet, I think it's closer than people indicate, than the odds indicate, I should say. I think Cody is very live for a knockout. I think both guys are live for a knockout. And if it goes the distance, I could see it being a competitive fight. Maybe Figgy outlands him, but I mean, picking Figueiredo at minus 300, betting him at minus 300 is a little bit wide, in my opinion. I think that Cody definitely has all the upside at plus 240. So I'll go with him in the first fight of the night. To start off a stacked UFC 300 card. Moving right along, we have Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. Legend Jim Miller. I'm picking him to win over Bobby Green. Bobby Green is a great fighter, and he's fought the better competition of the two. If you look through their last 5 fights, Bobby Green has definitely he's fought pretty much all ranked guys or around that top 15 level, whereas Jim Miller hasn't. So at the end of the day, though, when I look at this fight, I see that Bobby Green's been knocked out 4 months ago by Jalen Turner, and that's not good. The age difference doesn't really concern me a ton because Bobby Green's 37, close to 38. Jim Miller's 40, not too far from 41. So both guys are older. Jim Miller is into his 40s now, so I get it. Once you hit 40, you can start your performance might start to decrease after every fight. But I just look at Jim Miller and I'm like, I don't think he gets knocked out here by Bobby Green, and I think he has the finishing upside. I think Jim Miller has the durability upside here. I know I said in the last fight about Cody and Figueiredo, but I think Cody has the power to hurt Figueiredo. In this one, does Bobby have the power to hurt Jim Miller? Sure, but I think Jim Miller has the power to knock out Bobby Green. Bobby Green is coming back too soon after that devastating KO, one of the worst KOs I've ever seen against Jalen Turner. That was brutal, vicious knockout. Green 8, maybe 10 unanswered punches. The ref should have stopped it as soon as he hit the mat, but he didn't. And he took way too much damage than what he should have taken. The fight before that was the Grant Dawson fight. The Grant Dawson fight was very odd. It ended in 30 seconds because Grant Dawson went down after the first punch. Maybe that's a testament to Bobby Green's power and explosiveness, but I think it's more so just Grant Dawson just kind of, for lack of a better term, shot the bed. That's kind of what he did, is shit the bed a little bit. And no disrespect to Grant Dawson, he's a great grappler, but He's not really much of a striker, but regardless, Bobby Green did finish that fight in 30 seconds, so fair play. The Tony Ferguson fight, I don't really hold in high regard. Tony Ferguson is extremely washed up. Um, I think Jim Miller's got way more to give than that version of Tony Ferguson. And then the last two after that was the Jared Gordon fight where there was the accidental clash of heads. The headbutt happened, and before the headbutt, it was a fairly competitive fight against Jared Gordon. It wasn't like Bobby Green was running away with the Gordon fight. Gordon was landing on him on a few different occasions in that first round. About 4 minutes into the round is where the headbutt occurred that put Jared Gordon out. But before that, it was like I said, a fairly competitive fight. And then the last one for Bobby Green was the Drew Dober left hook knockout where Drew Dober just walked him down. Green was winning the fight. Dober just walked him down and knocked him out with the left hand. Now in this one, when I look at Jim Miller, I think he can do something similar to Drew Dober. I think he can look at what Drew Dober did and kind of try to implement that same success. Jim Miller has a few knockouts on his record recently. I know, he submitted Gabriel Benitez. Before that, he knocked out Jesse Butler in about 10 seconds. Lost Alexander Hernandez, which is why people are picking Bobby Green here because they think, Miller, when he steps up, he'll lose. But again, Bobby Green coming off a bad knockout, I think it's very live that Jim Miller can catch him with something. Miller has the power, even at 40. Miller has the power to knock somebody out if he catches him clean, and I think that'll happen here. Jim Miller's won on 100. He's won on UFC 200, and I'm hoping he can get it done at UFC 300. That would be a great story. So hoping we can see that, and I really think that he has a very good possibility of beating Bobby Green here. Next fight is Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. I'm going with Andrade. I just think she has more ways to win than Marina Rodriguez. Marina Rodriguez, not that she's one. I mean, she's a good striker. She's got good Muay Thai. She's got good, elbows and knees in the clinch. She is very good as far as her striking, her technical, pure striking skill. I think that Andrade has more finish. I mean, not to say Rodriguez has no finishing upside in the striking because Andrade sometimes leaves herself wide open. In the fight against Yan Nan, Andrade just left herself open to be countered with the right hand and she got knocked out. It was a bad game plan. She basically ignored defense, just started swinging massive, wild shots, and Yan caught her. She stepped back, threw her right hand, dropped her, and finished her. If Andrade does the same thing to Marina Rodriguez, she's going to lose. But I think she's smart enough. Maybe she isn't. You never know with Andrade. Maybe she is stupid enough to think she's a better striker than Marina Rodriguez. But I think if she's smart, which you never know with Andrade, but if she's smart, she'll shoot takedowns here. Marina Rodriguez has no grappling. It should be fairly simple for Andrade if she just sticks to the game plan of, what, maybe the first minute or two I'll strike and then mix things up, drop level, change levels, shoot a takedown, get her down, start landing ground and pound. She's not a good grappler. She's 36, I believe. Yeah, 36, about to be 37 years old, and she still hasn't fixed the holes in her grappling game. I think Andrade, you have to realize that there's a big hole in her grappling game. If she wants to strike with her, then she deserves to lose. But she has every tool to win this fight. She has the power on the feet to kind of make Rodriguez worry about, and then she also has the grappling if she wants to switch things up, and she should. So more ways to win. I'm going with Andrade. Obviously, Rodriguez is the more technical striker. You look at their last few fights. I obviously mentioned the Yan Nan fight, which wasn't the best look for Andrade, just because the way she lost that fight. It's like Yan Nan's not really known for her knockout power, really at all. But Andrade just did something stupid and got countered. She had that was actually during her 3-fight losing streak where she lost to Blanchfield and Tatiana Suarez. She lost to both of them by submission though, and I know Blanchfield was having some success on the feet, which is why people are going to take Rodriguez. But at the end of the day, Blanchfield and Tatiana Suarez, they have a grappling threat that Marina doesn't possess. So I don't think Andrade is going to be worried about any sort of wrestling or grappling exchange with Marina. I think she should be worried about the striking exchange, but If you're not well rounded, I think Andrade, especially the fact that Marina, I feel like is just not a one trick pony per se because she does have a versatile striking skill set. I just think she's um, not good at all in a certain area where Andrade can take advantage of. So I will go with Andrade, kind of reluctantly because I really don't like want to. I mean, the odds she's a slight favorite. I get that, but it's one of those where it's like it could go either way. Jalen Turner versus Hanato Money Moicano. I've been 50-50 on this one. I'm pure pick. Pure pick is going to be Turner. I'm going to pick Turner like just for the pick's sake, but I wouldn't blame anybody for betting Moicano here. I wouldn't because the odds I feel like are a little bit off. Turner has shown grappling holds in his game before. Moicano is a very, very good grappler. Now, the problem with Moicano is versus the problem with Turner, right? The problem with Turner, obviously, is the grappling threat. But Turner, not that he can't be submitted, but he hasn't been subbed before. So it's like maybe he gets controlled and submitted, but we've seen Moicano knocked out on a number of occasions. He has 3 knockout losses, and one of them was to Fiziev in the first round, Korean Zombie in round one, and then Aldo in round two. So the guy's been knocked out on a few different occasions. He's been hurt on more occasions than just that as well. In the last fight Moicano's had against Drew Dober, he beat Drew Dober, but he was taking some damage in the Drew Dober fight. And I believe it was round two where he had kind of accepted being on his back, and Drew Dober started to land some good ground and pound shots on Moicano. Now Moicano obviously won that fight. Round three, he got on top of Dober and stayed there, ended up winning. So good win over Drew Dober. However, looking at Turner, I think Turner has even more explosive ability than Drew Dober. I think Turner's more explosive. I think he's a better striker overall. I think he can mix things up better. Dober's kind of a guy that he'll take one to give one. He'll take a few shots on the feet to give one of his own. He likes to kind of get in a firefight, and he's more of a boxer. Whereas I feel like Turner, yeah, he's got good hands, but Turner can also mix up the knees. I think he'll feint those knees to keep Moicano guessing so he won't shoot takedowns. Will Moicano still shoot? He'll probably look for the body lock or look to take Turner down anyway. But Turner, I feel like, has more weapons. I saw him land a flush head kick on Dan Hooker. Hooker didn't drop from that. I mean, pretty impressive stuff from Hooker, but Turner landed some great shots in the Hooker fight. If it was, if it was someone not as tough as Hooker, they probably go down and they probably get knocked out by that. And I don't think Moicano has the durability of a Dan Hooker or of a Gamrot, excuse me. I think Gamrot and Dan Hooker are more durable than Moicano. Both those guys are guys that you can hit them clean and hurt them bad, but if you don't knock them out, they'll still come right back at you. I think for Moicano, not that I don't think he's going to quit, but if Turner hits him hard enough, if he rocks him bad, I feel like he can jump on him and probably finish him. So Moicano has the grappling upside here, but early in the fight, I think it's going to be all Turner, and I think Turner's going to be way too much for Moicano to deal with. If you keep looking, Moicano beat Brad Riddell, lost to RDA, beat Alexander Hernandez, and then Shai Herbert. He submitted most of those guys. I just feel like Turner's a step up in terms of, Turner's just so much better on the feet than a lot of these guys. And not that these guys aren't good on the feet, because a lot of them are, like Drew Dober, for example, like they're good strikers, but Turner's like, I feel like he's just has the one shot power. He's super big for the weight class. He's very, I'm not going to say he's tough to get to the ground, but I think he's going to be tough to hold there. He does sometimes accept being off his back, but I think he's worked on that. 28 years old to 34-year-old Moicano. I get Moicano has a shot here. I get Moicano shouldn't be this much of a dog. If anything, I think Moicano, the line's a little bit wide, which is why I'm saying it's more of a 50-50 fight because Moicano does have grappling in his back pocket that he's very good at. But I think the power of Turner, I think the first round explosiveness of Turner will be too much for Moicano. I'm going to be going with Jalen Turner, round one, KO TKO. I just think he finds a way to beat Moicano, um, probably early if he gets it done. Next, we have Sadiq Youssef versus Diego Lopez. Um, I'm going with Diego Lopez here. One thing I noticed with Sadiq in all of his fights is he gets hurt in every single fight, it seems like. You look through his last few, I mean, Edson Barbosa hurt him bad in round one, and then he kind of fell off a little bit. He got dropped later on in that fight and ended up losing to Edson. Beat Don Shanis, which is like, that's not really a great win. Don Shanis wasn't really UFC caliber. He beat Alex Caceres and Andre Fili while losing to Arnold Allen. The problem with Sadiq Youssef I've seen is he doesn't get. I mean, I'm not saying he gets finished in a lot of these fights because he is pretty good at surviving when he does get hurt, but he gets hurt in a lot of fights. I've seen him hurt in at least 3, 4 fights he's been in the UFC. He gets rocked a lot. Another thing is he got taken down multiple times by Andre Fili, and by multiple times I mean I counted at least 3 or 4 takedowns from Fili, and maybe even more. It's like Sadiq was getting right back up. Fili had no control time because or he couldn't really establish any control because Sadiq Youssef was just getting right back up when he got taken down. But if Diego Lopez can time and take, not Diego Lopez isn't really a wrestler, so I'm not going to say that. But if Diego Lopez can somehow get Sadiq Youssef to the ground, whichever way that is, I think it's going to be tough for Youssef to get back up. If he gives his back, Lopez will jump all over it. Lopez, very dangerous grappler, and he's even dangerous in the striking. I mean, he's got some power. I think he can hurt Youssef. Now, Youssef can hurt him, to be fair, but Diego Lopez can certainly hurt Sadiq Youssef. Youssef's been rocked in multiple fights. He got rocked by Gabriel Benitez. If you watch their fight, he got rocked by Benitez, which is not a good look. Benitez is nowhere near the caliber of the top 15, whereas Diego Lopez probably is top 15 level. As you saw in his fight versus, even in his loss against Movsar Evloev, I know he got beat. Not arguing the decision. I scored it for Movsar, obviously, but it was competitive. It wasn't like Mobsar just destroyed him. Lopez had many submission attempts, and when I mean many, he had some very close ones. Almost submitted Mobsar on quite a few occasions in that fight. And for Sadiq, I've heard good things about his grappling. I've heard people say, "Oh, he's training at a good gym. He's got good grappling." It hasn't been tested like this before. Diego Lopez has like 20 submission wins on his record. Out of his 23 wins, or I think it's like 18 or something, are by sub. 12, sorry, a little bit off there, but you guys get the point. He submits a lot of people, never been submitted 12 people in his career. So he is a good grappler. He has 9 knockouts. Almost all of his wins are inside the distance, either by knockout or by submission. So he wins almost all of his fights inside the distance. Very dangerous grappler. He's also very opportunistic. If he sees something, he'll jump on it. If he rocks Sadiq Youssef, he'll swarm him and look to finish him. Whereas I think Sadiq is more of a minute winner than Lopez. I think if the fight goes the distance, I think it's Sadiq's fight. I think Yusuf's going to win a decision. But if the fight ends inside the distance, I think Lopez has all the finishing upside. And I think Lopez will find a finish here. I think he'll find a finish. We've seen Yusuf vulnerable on multiple occasions. I think Lopez will find that occasion where he'll hurt Yusuf or grab a neck in a transition or something and find a way to beat Sadiq Youssef. Last few fights for Lopez have been Pat Sabatini, where he dropped him and finished him in round one. Beat Gavin Tucker with the triangle armbar. Great submission win over Gavin Tucker, who was took some time off before that, but is a very legit black belt. So it's an impressive submission win there. And then obviously the fight before was his UFC debut against Movsar Evloev, which was a super competitive fight as far as Lopez. He hung in there. He was getting out trucked a little bit by Movsar, I get it, but he had him in multiple submission attempts that were nearly finished. So I'm going to go Diego Lopez. A lot of hype behind him. So I think the hype is driving the line here. I think if there wasn't as much hype on Lopez, like if this was, let's say this was his fight after the Evloev fight, right? Let's say it was after the Evloev fight, comes in against Yusuf, he'd probably be a pretty big dog. Maybe not a huge dog, maybe like plus 130, plus 140. But the line's flipped. Yusuf's the underdog. I do still like Lopez. I think Lopez is dangerous enough to get it done, but you know, it's always tricky with Sadiq, a guy that is technical, can fight well for 3 rounds. But I will go with Diego Lopez. A few more prelims to go. Great, great fight card. I'm excited to break down pretty much every single fight. This one, not nearly as much, but I'll still break it down. Holly Holm, Kayla Harrison. I think this is Kayla Harrison's fight to lose. I think she made weight, so the weight cut. She figured out a way to make the weight. If that will affect her in the octagon, we'll see. We have a lot of we have a lot of tape on. But I mean, we have tape on Harrison from PFL, tape on Holly Holm, obviously from the UFC over the years. I think Holm's too old at this point, though. She's 42, and the difference between Holly Holm and someone like Jim Miller is Jim Miller, for example, he's 40, but he's been winning a lot of fights. Even he hasn't been fighting like the best in the world, Jim Miller, but he has been winning fights. He hasn't been, showing obvious signs of decline. Whereas I think Holly Holm has shown signs of decline. I don't think she's nearly as fast. I just don't think she's the fighter she once was. I think in her prime she was amazing, and even now I don't think she's terrible. I just think she's not going to be good enough to beat Kayla Harrison. I don't like to do MMA math here, but I feel like I kind of have to for this one. Kayla Harrison trains with Myra Bueno Silva, and as far as I'm aware, Kayla Harrison beats up Myra Bueno Silva. Kayla Harrison usually ragdolls her in training, as far as I know. So if Kayla Harrison is that much better than Myra Bueno Silva and Holly Holm, I know it's MMA math. I know MMA math usually doesn't work, but if Holm's getting beaten by Bueno Silva, getting submitted, I don't think that's a good something good for her against Kayla Harrison, who's a very good grappler. She's a judoka. She's a black belt in judo. Went to the Olympics. Not a black belt. Did I say black belt? I meant gold medal. Well, she is a black belt, but a gold medalist, I should have said. Gold medalist in judo in the Olympics. So Harrison, she has that background. I know Holm, the last judo practitioner she fought was Ronda Rousey, and I know she beat Ronda Rousey, but I think Harrison's a little bit different, and I think this is a different time period. Holm that fought Rousey was way back. It was like 10 years ago. It was a long time ago. It was a really long time ago. Kayla Harrison now is in her prime, basically 33 years old. Holm 10 years older about. Harrison, I think, is going to be stronger. I think she's going to be able to get into the clinch, drag Holm to the ground. I don't think Holm will be able to skirt on the outside, which is what she's going to want to do. I think Holm's going to try to skirt on the outside, look to point fight. I think it's going to be hard to point fight a girl like Kayla Harrison, who's very strong, who's someone that's going to just, I feel like, close the distance, get to a body lock, get to a clinch, try to drag her down. And once Kayla Harrison's on top, I feel like Holm's in big, big trouble. I think Harrison has a possibility to win inside the distance, but if not, I just think she'll hold her and control her on the ground for 3 rounds and win a decision. Calvin Kattar versus Aljo is the next prelim. Kattar and Aljo, another really good fight. In this one, I'm going to be going with Aljamain Sterling to beat Calvin Kattar. I think Aljo is really good. I think people are they were underrating Aljo earlier in the the line got steamed a little bit on Aljo. The line was minus 110. It was a pick'em. It was a pick'em on both sides. And in a pick'em fight, I would take Aljo any day of the week. And twice on Sunday, I would probably bet Aljo at a pick'em, honestly, because I feel like he's just better than Kattar. At minus 175, it's a little bit less, desirable than minus 110, obviously, but I still think Aljo gets it done. If you look at the two guys, what do they do good and everything? For one, Kattar, he's coming off the injury. Not that I don't think the injury is like the biggest. I'm not. That's not the reason I'm picking against him. It's just that's another factor you have to add in that he got hurt. Hasn't fought in a year and a half. Before that, a year and 9 months ago, lost a split to Josh Emmett. I thought he beat Josh Emmett. To be fair, I do think that was a bad decision. I think giving round four, I've said it before, giving round four to Josh Emmett was one of the worst scorecards I've ever seen in MMA history. Giving Calvin Kattar outlanded him 40-20, and you gave Emmett that round. Whatever judge that is needs to be put in jail for robbery. But in this fight, I don't think Cater's gonna have a ton of boxing success because Aljo just moves too well, and I think the Funkmaster nickname suits him because he's just very awkward in there. He does things very kind of like funky, very different than a lot of other people. He switches stances sometimes, but he's moving around. I think in the Petr Yan's second fight, I think the first round of that fight is a similar game plan to what he's going to do here against Calvin Kattar, and I think it can work. I think for Aljo, what he's going to do is move along on the outside of the cage. He's got the big cage to work with, right? He's got the big cage. He doesn't have the apex cage, so he's got more room to work with. I think he's going to skirt around the outside. I think he's going to try to avoid the boxing combinations of Cater. And how do you avoid a boxer in MMA? Well, one way is there's constant movement. If Cater can't set his feet, if Cater can't plant his feet and throw with power, I think Aljo, it's going to be tough to land on Aljo because he's not going to be able to. I don't think it's going. I think it's going to be tough for him to land on him because Aljo's going to be constantly moving from side to side, switching direction, changing stances, firing kicks to the body, kicks to the legs. I think Aljo will rack up significant strikes with his kicks, similar to how he did in the first round of the Yan fight. And he actually won that Petr Yan first round. Well, he won the fight in general, the second one, but the first round he won that round because of him, implementing that game plan. And I think he can do something similar to Cater. And even in the grappling, I think Sterling is way ahead of Cater. If Sterling does get a hold of him and gets to the back, that's a round for Sterling. Sterling definitely has all the grappling upside here. I don't think Cater has much grappling. I mean, not. I think he has zero grappling upside here, especially against someone like Aljo. Sterling's also moving up in weight, which I think is good for him. He doesn't have to cut all this weight. I think his chin will be better. Even if Cater does clip him with something, I don't think he's going to knock Aljo out cold. I think Aljo will be able to stay in there. And I just think Aljo's fought, a tougher. And when I say a tougher, I don't. It's hard to say a tougher strength of schedule because it's Cater's fought really, really elite competition. He fought Arnold Allen before he got hurt. Josh Emmett, Giga, Max Holloway, and Dan Ige. So he's fought really, really good competition. But what I say is Aljamain Sterling's past few fights, he's fought guys, in my opinion, that are better strikers and just better overall than Calvin Kattar. Sean O'Malley is a much, much, much more dangerous striker than Calvin Kattar. He's just much better. You know what I mean? Cater's got the boxing, but I think Sean O'Malley's just so much more well rounded in his striking. O'Malley's got the kicks, he's got the punches, he's got the flashiness. Like he's very tricky to deal with on the feet. I think Cater's a little bit more just kind of like that boxing style. He's not going to give you something you've never seen before. I think Sterling's seen Cater before. Like this, it's the style of Cater, I should say. I think Sterling's seen that style before. I don't think Cater has seen the Aljo style before. I think so. I think it'll be a new challenge for Cater. Whereas I think for Sterling, it's just a boxer. You know what I mean? It's just a boxer. He's got the grappling edge. Not that I don't know if he's going to be able to take Calvin Cater down, but I don't even think he needs to take him down. I think if he shoots some takedowns, keeps that in Cater's head, right? Keep it in his head. Shoot the takedowns. Make Cater think, oh, Aljo's going to try to take me down. He's going to get to the back, and while he's thinking about that, just chew the legs up, kick the legs, kick the body, move around on the outside, and I think Aljo can point his way to a win here. I'll say Aljamain Sterling by decision. A submission, him winning inside the distance by sub would also not surprise me because if he gets to the back of Cater, I think he could possibly sub him. But the pick will be Aljamain Sterling to get it done by decision. Now we have the headliner of the prelims. This is a fantastic fight. Yuri Prohaska versus Alexander Rakic. I'm going with Yuri Prohaska over Alexander Rakic. I think, well, first of all, Rakic has fought once in the last 3 years, and that was the fight versus Jan Blachowicz where he got hurt. I think for Rakic, I think he wants a fight where um, I think he wants a more technical style fight. I don't think a fight against Yuri, I just feel like is going to be too much for Rakic to deal with. Fighting, if you fought one time in the last 3 years and you think you can deal with the style of Yuri Prohaska, I think it's very, very tricky. Yuri's style is very unorthodox. It's hard to train for. It's hard to come back to. A guy that hasn't fought in a year and 10 months, right? Rakic hasn't fought in a year and 10 months. Now he's coming back to fight a guy who is just so and I know I've said the word explosive to describe a lot of fighters, but I think that perfectly describes Yuri. I mean, Yuri has he's very athletic. I think really that's one of the best attributes of his game. He's just a great athlete. He's um, he's good at just being able to take one and give one, and it's not always the greatest idea because he got knocked out against Pereira, but again, I think Pereira hits a lot harder than Rakic. I think Pereira has way more finishing ability than Rakic does. I don't think Rakic is going to be able to point his way to a win against someone like Yuri. He'll kick the legs, which is what everyone's already saying. It's everyone's a broken record apparently because everyone says the same thing over and over. Oh, Rakic's just going to kick his legs. He's just going to use the leg kicks, and like we know he's going to use the leg kicks. I don't think Yuri cares. Volkan Ozdemir used the leg kicks against Yuri. What happened? He got knocked out. I think yeah, I think Alexander Rakic gets knocked out here by Yuri Prohaska. Yuri's just one of those guys where he'll walk through the fire to find you. The Volkan Ozdemir fight's a perfect example. He did get his leg kicked a few times, and what did he do in that fight? Something very odd. Like it looked so weird, but it worked so perfect. He almost jumped. He like hopped into range. It was weird. It was almost like a hop, like kind of like jumping into range. And he threw a jab, and then he followed it up with a right hand and put Volkan Ozdemir out cold. Flatlined him bad. It was a bad knockout. Fight against Dominic Reyes was a brutal, brutal KO. Spinning elbow flatlined him out cold. And then the Glover Teixeira fight, he was losing the Glover fight, but ended up winning in the last minute by submission. Just goes to show, even if he's down, even if he is losing the fight, Yuri always has the ability to pull it out of the fire in the last minute. He doesn't quit on himself. He's just one of those guys. And then against Alex Pereira, Yuri was actually winning the first. He won the first round. He won the first round in all three scorecards. And in round two, he was landing straight punches on Pereira. We'll talk about straight punches landing on Pereira in the main event, but Yuri was landing punches on Pereira, and he was landing quite a few of them. He landed on Pereira a few times. Obviously, he couldn't knock out Pereira, and Pereira ended up knocking him out. But the fight was competitive, man. I mean, Yuri won round one, round two. Before the knockout, round two was pretty even. You could give it to Pereira based off the low kicks and everything, but I think Yuri was landing a lot of good shots in round two. I think Yuri was looking really good in that fight up until he got finished. And that's Alex Pereira's left hook. I don't think Rakic has that kind of power. I think Yuri's gonna just walk through, and I think Yuri's gonna find a shot to put him out. Typically, it's not good to bank on a guy who you're expecting to just find that one shot. But for Yuri, it's like he sets those shots up very well. It's not like he just is throwing wild and not setting anything up. Like that right hand he landed on Volkan, perfect shot, put him out. Spinning elbow, perfectly timed, put Dominic Reyes out. He just has that ability to land the shots to really hurt someone and find the finish. I think that'll be the same here against Rakic. Like I said, just don't like the layoff. I don't think Rakic is going to be able to implement wrestling and grappling either. I know he's been working on his wrestling, and I think people are saying that that could be a game plan of Rakic is to wrestle. Just don't think that'll work out too well against Yuri. I think Yuri is pretty good at being. I think he'll be good enough to get up from those. If Rakic does take him down, and I think Yuri can knock out Rakic. So I'm going with Yuri Prohaska in this one. Main card opener. I can't believe this is opening up the main card, but I'll go. I'll be quick on this one. I'll be quick because we all know what's going to happen. Bo Nickel, Cody Brundage. Bo Nickel is going to knock Cody Brundage out, or submit him. Doesn't matter, whichever one. Yeah, TKO, knockout, submission. Bo Nickel's going to win this fight in round one. Either Bo Nickel catches Cody Brundage in round one, puts him away, or takes him down, which should be very easy. If Cedricus Dumas can take him down, I imagine that Bo Nickel can do the same. So I'm going to go with Bo Nickel, obviously. Nickel's got all the. I think he has more finish. Honestly, Cody Brundage does have some power on the feet, so it probably wouldn't be the greatest idea for Bo Nickel to hang out on the feet with Brundage, because I feel like if you hang out on the feet, that's really his only chance of winning, in my opinion, is if Bo Nickel just hangs out on the feet and tries to strike with him. But even on the feet, I think Bo Nickel could give Brundage some problems. But we all know what Bo Nickel likes to do. We all know Bo Nickel's a wrestler, a great wrestler. He's going to take down Brundage. He's going to, either pass to a dominant position and submit him, or he's just going to land ground and pound and knock him out or TKO him on the ground. So Bo Nickel, easy pick, minus 2,000 favorite, like one of the biggest favorites in UFC history. He's going to win the fight. It's like I said, it's not competitive. A guy that lost to Cedricus Dumas via wrestling, it's not even like Cedricus Dumas like knocked him out. Like you got out grappled, out wrestled by Cedricus Dumas, a street fighter, a face tattooed street fighter, beat you in wrestling and grappling, and you think you have any chance against Bo Nickel? Bo Nickel's going to run right through him. Bo Nickel inside of 1 round. Next fight we have is Charles do Bronx Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. I'm going with Arman Tsarukyan here. Charles Oliveira is the popular pick. 68% of people are picking do Bronx Oliveira. And I do like Oliveira's game. I think Oliveira is a very good grappler, and his striking has, in the last few years, he's shown very good striking as well. Oliveira's game has improved quite a bit throughout his UFC career. It really has improved a lot. The problem is against Arman Tsarukyan. I think Arman Tsarukyan has already fought a similar style before. Now, obviously, not as good of a fighter. Obviously, Joel Alvarez is nowhere near the fighter that Oliveira is. But I'm saying he's fought similar styles. Not that they're the same fighter, but he's fought similar styles to Oliveira. The guys that they're a little bit dangerous on the feet, but more so than their striking danger, they're more so dangerous in their grappling game. And I think Oliveira is very dangerous if he can. He's more dangerous if he can like club and sub you, but he's also dangerous in his pure grappling. A lot of fighters like Poirier, like Gaethje, did not want to follow him down to the mat, did not want to grapple with him, and I get it because he does have the ability to catch you in something and submit you right away. I don't think Arman's like that. I think has a different mindset. I think Arman's mindset is if I drop Oliveira, I'm going to follow him down. I'm going to start throwing elbows right at his head and try to knock him out. And I think that's the game plan you need to have against Oliveira. You can't show him a weakness. Gaethje and Poirier showed him weaknesses. They showed him that they don't want to grapple with him. They showed that weakness. I don't think Arman has that weakness. Sure, Arman can get knocked. He's been knocked out before way early in his career, and he has been dropped before. I know he got wobbled bad by Joaquim Silva. So Arman's chin, you could always say it's a bit of a worry, but I think Oliveira's chin's also a worry. If you're going to talk about Arman's chin, talk about Oliveira's chin. Oliveira's been dropped more times than Arman. Oliveira's been hurt on more occasions than Arman has in the UFC. Oliveira's been hurt in almost all of his fights. Not the Beneil fight. Beneil took him down, and then obviously when Oliveira got back up, he ended up finishing Beneil. His Makhachev fight, Makhachev club and subbed him basically. Gaethje had dropped him, and then obviously Oliveira ended up dropping Gaethje and finishing him soon after. The Poirier fight, same deal, and then Michael Chandler. Like every single fight, pretty much that Oliveira's been in, he's getting hurt. He's getting hurt and then coming back and winning. I just think it's going to be hard to come back from getting hurt and being able to beat a guy like Arman. Arman, very well rounded. I think his wrestling is good enough to take Oliveira down, even if he's not able to do much damage on the ground. Well, I do think he actually has ability to do damage on the ground just based off of his ability to do that to a guy like Alvarez, who's a very good submission grappler. Obviously, not the same guy as Oliveira. Oliveira's way better. I get it, but I'm just saying styles make fights, and Arman has fought this style and beaten this style brutally in Joel Alvarez. So take that for what it's worth. I am going to go with Arman. Charles does have the ability to win. Obviously, he has the KO power, and he also has the submission ability. He's dangerous. Should he be a plus 170 underdog? Probably not, just because Armin, or just because Charles does have that finishing upside. But if he doesn't finish Charles early, or if he doesn't finish Armin early, I think Armin probably ends up just ragdolling him and probably finishing him with ground and pound is what I'll say. So I'm going with Armin Sarukian. Featured fight of the night, we have Justin the Highlight Gaethje taking on Max Blessed Holloway. The people's main event of the night, the BMF title on the line. Gaethje versus Holloway. My pick is going to be Max Holloway, and I'm picking him to win inside the distance as well. I'm not just picking Max Holloway. I think he TKOs Justin Gaethje in round 4, or later in the fight. Could be a 3, 4, 5. Doesn't matter the round. I do think he TKOs Justin Gaethje. I do think he breaks Justin Gaethje as the fight goes on. I think Max Holloway is he's been disrespected all week. He's been disrespected by this line. The line has moved closer. Gaethje was a much bigger favorite. Gaethje was like a minus 250 or something like that. He was a huge favorite. Now he's down to minus 160. The line has moved a ton on Gaethje. So if you're betting on Gaethje, you probably want to bet him now. Obviously, you didn't want to bet him at minus 250, but I really think Holloway wins. I think Holloway's just a better fight. He's a better overall fighter. If you look at the way these guys fight, right? Who has the advantage in different aspects, right? Obviously, power goes to Gaethje. Gaethje's got the power. He has the obviously the hands to hurt Holloway. He also has the leg kicks to do damage to Holloway. But where does Holloway beat Gaethje? Better cardio, better durability, better. I'm not saying they're going to grapple, but better grappling. Let's be honest. Holloway's got better grappling. So cardio, durability, grappling. He's got better output. If you're telling me it's round 3, 4, 5, who's going to land more? I think Holloway's going to land more. Um, who's been knocked out before or who's been finished before? Gaethje. Who's never been knocked out? Holloway. Holloway's also moving up a weight class. I think the last time he moved up, I think this time's going to be better. I think he's going to be more adjusted to the weight gain than the fight against Poirier when he formerly fought at 55. I think this is a great fight for Holloway. I think he's being completely overlooked by everyone. And I really think Holloway wins this fight. I think he finishes Justin Gaethje. Gaethje's also 35. Gaethje's the older fighter. People were all over Gaethje. A lot of people were all over Gaethje earlier on in the week, before the line movement. And now Holloway's getting some love. Obviously, the line has shifted all the way down to plus 135 for Holloway. So people are betting Holloway now, and I get why. They're seeing the same things that I'm seeing. I think the line should be flipped. Maybe not flipped, but I think Holloway should be the favorite. I think Holloway should be like the minus 125, minus 120 favorite. I just think he has more ways to win this fight. And for Justin Gaethje, he is very good. His last few fights has shown that. He beat Dustin Poirier by head kick, beat Fiziev. The fight before that, he lost to Charles, beats Michael Chandler, and then lost to Khabib. So he has a great strength of schedule. I think Max Holloway also has a good strength of schedule, though. Holloway's last 5 out. Korean Zombie, Arnold Allen, Volk, Yair, and Calvin Kattar beat the brakes off of Kattar. Beat Yair Rodriguez in a competitive fight, but beat him. Lost to Volk, beat Arnold Allen, and beat the Korean Zombie. I think losing to Volk by decision isn't like, there's nothing wrong with that, just because I think Volk is the guy who is just very tricky. I think he's more tricky on the feet than Gaethje. I just think Volk's style presents more problems to Max, because I think Max will actually prefer fighting a guy like Gaethje, who he knows Gaethje's going to probably just sit down on his punches, swing heavy, leave himself open. Volk's a guy that he's just very, very smart. His fight IQ is very high. And that was Max Holloway fought Volk basically at his peak. I know he lost 3 times to Volk, but just because he lost it to Poirier doesn't mean Volk isn't one of the greatest, if not the greatest featherweights of all time. He is an absolute amazing, amazing fighter. So no shame in that. Obviously, no shame for Gaethje in losing Oliveira or Khabib. Um, like I said, I just think more ways to win Holloway. I think Holloway can break him. I think the cardio of Holloway will get to Gaethje as the fight goes on. I'm going with Max Holloway. I'm going with him inside the distance over Justin Gaethje. Co-main event of the evening, we have Zhang Weili, and she is taking on Yan Xiaonan. And in this one, I'm going with Zhang Weili in the battle of Chinese champions. I'm going with Weili. I think Weili is better than Yan Xiaonan. I think both of them are good. I just think Weili is more well-rounded. I think she's fought the. I don't want to say she's really fought like the much better. Actually, she has probably fought the better level competition. I know they fought similar opponents. They both fought Carlos Barza, for example, but Weili, some of her fights have been against Amanda Lemos, Carlos Barza, Joanna, and then she lost twice to Rose. Her only two UFC losses are to Rose Namajunas. Obviously, the round one head kick, and then the split loss to Rose, which could have went her way. She could be 25-2 right now. Weili is an amazing fighter, one of the best we've ever seen. She's rounded out her game very well. She's not just a striker, she also can wrestle, and I think that's where she's going to have a lot of success here. I don't think Yan Xiaonan has the power to knock out Weili. Obviously, anything can happen in MMA. I just don't see Weili getting knocked out by someone like Yan Xiaonan. I think that's very unlikely. I think if the fight goes the distance, I think Weili will be able to implement her grappling, implement her wrestling, take down Yan Xiaonan, control her. Yan Xiaonan has been out wrestled before. I know she's training at a Team Alpha Male, which is a really good place, a really good gym to train out of to help your wrestling. So I think her wrestling will be improved, but against Weili, I just think she's too well rounded. I think she's a heavy favorite for a reason. I do see some people on the Yan side this week, and I kind of get it just due to the odds. I mean, but let's be honest, guys. If Yan Xiaonan wasn't a plus 370, if she was, if the line was a pick 'em, right? Let's say they give you even odds. They give you even odds on both sides. Everyone's gonna pick Weili. No one's gonna pick Yan at even odds. I know odds are kind of the reason people play the game, but at the end of the day, I feel like most people are just picking Yan because of the odds. I feel like most people aren't actually picking her because they think she's going to win. It's just based off, oh, she's plus 370, she's got a shot, and I think that's what it is. She has a chance. I just think Weili is just too much for her. Could Yan prove me wrong? Could she prove me wrong? Possibly, but I mean, how much can her grappling improve in 2 years and 10 months? You know what I mean? Can it improve a lot in 2 years and 10 months? Absolutely. Can your grappling improve that much in 2 years and 10 months where you can stuff all the takedowns and not be able to have any control time against Weili? That's tough to ask. I'm going to go with Weili. I'll say by decision. I think Weili wins this one. We'll say 49-46. Maybe Yan gets around. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have the main event of the evening. Alex Poatan Pereira versus Sweet Dreams Jamal Hill. You guys know who I'm picking here. I'm going with Jamal Hill. Sweet Dreams and new. He never lost his belt, but still and new. Jamal Hill is going to knock out Alex Pereira. He's going to catch him with those straight punches I was talking about. Remember in the Yuri fight, I was talking about Pereira getting caught with straight punches. That's what's going to happen. Jamal Hill is going to flatline him. I really think he's going to flatline Pereira out cold. Pereira's last 5, he beat Yuri Prohaska, and that was a really good win. Obviously, Yuri was coming back off the layoff, and no Hill is coming back off injury. We'll talk about that in a second. But for Alex Pereira, beat Yuri Prohaska. Great win to have against Yuri. Although I don't think he was winning that fight beforehand. Before he knocked out Yuri, I don't think he was winning. I really don't. I think Yuri was getting the better of that fight in round 1. He won round 1 unanimously. It's not like you can say, oh, no, every single scorecard gave round 1 to Yuri. Round 2 was more competitive, but I feel like Yuri was landing some good shots. And then, boom, out of nowhere, left hook, ended the fight. I don't think maybe that the similar thing can happen. Maybe Pereira can catch Hill with the left hook and knock him out. I'm not saying that's impossible. He is a minus 135 favorite, but I think Pereira, for one, he's 36 years old. He's getting older. He's soon to be 37. I think his chin is worse than Hill's. I think Hill's got the better chin. I think the durability is more on the Hill side. Pereira's been wobbled and knocked out on multiple occasions. Well, not knocked out on multiple occasions, but he's been knocked out once. He's been wobbled on a few different occasions. In the fight against Jan Blachowicz, he won a split. That was a super close fight. Jan won round one clearly. Round two and three were Pereira's, but it wasn't like Pereira pulled away with the fight. It was very, very close. And then the fight before that was at middleweight where Pereira fought Israel Adesanya, and Adesanya flatlined him, man. Adesanya flatlined him out cold. And if you guys remember the first fight, the first Adesanya fight in round one, Adesanya nearly had him out of there. I mean, I know Pereira survived. Pereira survived, but early on, he almost had him out of there in round one. He almost had him out of there in round one, and Pereira ended up winning the fight in round five. He was losing the fight to Adesanya, though, beforehand. So, all in all, Alex Pereira, I think he's a great kickboxer. I think he's a really good fighter. I think he's improved in all aspects of fighting. I think his grappling has improved. Obviously, he's shown that he can defensively, grapple and stuff takedowns if he has to. He's shown that ability, but I think Jamal Hill is going to be too much for him. Well, let's talk about the injury of Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is coming off an injury, and it is an Achilles injury, so that is why people are saying, is he going to be the same fighter as he once was? I think he will. I think he sees a path to victory against Pereira, or else he wouldn't take the fight. I think he sees what I see. He sees that Pereira is open to get hit, and Jamal Hill hits too hard for you to get cracked by him. You get cracked by Jamal Hill, you're going to sleep. I know he didn't knock out Glover, but he beat Glover from pillar to post. He made it look easy, almost like he beat him 50-44, beat Glover every single round easily. Um, yeah, Jamal Hill landed. I'm pretty sure landed a strike record against Glover as well. So Jamal Hill, he's got the cardio. I think he honestly could have. I think he probably has better cardio than Pereira. I think he can push better than Pereira. I think he's got. Maybe Pereira has more, like, maybe his left hook is more dangerous than Hill's, but I don't think it's the left hook. I think it's going to be the straight punches of Hill. They're going to get to Pereira first, and it doesn't matter which stance he's fighting out of. Hill does switch stances. Normally, he is a southpaw. He can switch to orthodox. He knocked out Johnny Walker in the orthodox stance with the right hand. He can knock out Pereira with the right hand. He could switch back to southpaw and fire straight left and knock out Pereira. I think all those are possibilities. I'm just seeing it now. I'm just seeing Hill catching Pereira and putting him out. I just see that happening. A lot of people are disrespecting Hill. Um, I know in the community, in the betting community, and in the YouTube space, a lot of people have picked Hill. Hill is the popular pick among the YouTube community. However, in terms of the actual community, 71% of people are on Pereira. So Pereira is the overwhelming favorite among the fans. But among the people actually breaking down these fights, a lot of us can see that Hill's got that shot, and not just a shot. I think he's got a good chance of winning this fight if he doesn't get cracked. Obviously, if he gets cracked, it's very dangerous. And the leg kicks of Pereira could give Hill some problems, but I just think Hill's got it. I think Hill's got it. I think he's going to. Hill is a star, but he's not. I think this will put his stardom on the next level. If Hill wins this fight, he's going to be one of the biggest stars in the comp. I really think he'll be one of the biggest stars in the promotion if he knocks out Alex Pereira. So this is Jamal Hill's coming out party. You could say his coming out party. You could say his coming out party was against Glover, but I really think this is it. I think this is a bigger challenge just because Glover, as good as Glover was, he was a little bit older in that fight. That was his last fight. I think for Pereira here, if Hill beats him, that solidifies him. That solidifies Hill as like the top dog. That solidifies him as the man. You know what I mean? And I think he'll do it. So there we have it. UFC 300 full card predictions. Second try on this. Either way, I thank you guys very much for watching. And as always, I will see you in the next one.